The jungle was dying around them. 12 Navy SEALs, America's most elite warriors, pinned down in a kill zone that was rapidly becoming their tomb. Chief Petty Officer Garrett Hawthorne pressed himself against the moss-covered log, trying to make his 6'2" frame invisible as bullets chewed through the vegetation above his head. The sound was deafening. Machine gun fire. The distinctive crack of AK-47s. The deeper thump of RP impacting somewhere close enough to feel too close. His radio crackled with desperation. Static mixed with the voice of a man who'd never sounded desperate before. Viper 6, this is Ground Team Alpha. We need immediate air support. We need QRF. We need anything. We're getting massacred out here. The response was not what he wanted to hear. Ground Team Alpha, no air assets available. Heavy weather systems. QRF is 40 minutes out. You need to hold your position. 40 minutes. They'd all be dead in 10. The mission had been textbook until it wasn't. Intelligence said the compound would have maybe 20 hostiles. Light resistance. In and out before breakfast. Quick strike, extract the target, vanish into the jungle before the enemy even knew what hit them. But intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. The compound had been a trap. And now his team was surrounded by what looked like an entire battalion of well-trained, well-equipped fighters who knew exactly what they were doing. Professional soldiers. Not militia. Not insurgents playing at war. Real operators who moved with tactical discipline and fired with purpose. "Chief," his teammate Kincaid shouted over the gunfire. "We got movement on the left flank. They're trying to surround us." Hawthorne did the math. 12 SEALs with dwindling ammunition against an enemy force that seemed to have unlimited numbers and firepower. The mathematics were simple, brutal, final. They were going to die here in this godforsaken jungle, thousands of miles from home. He keyed his radio one more time, his voice calm despite the chaos. "That's what 20 years in the teams taught you. Stay calm, even when the world is ending. Viper 6 Ground Team Alpha, if you've got anyone nearby now would be a really good time." There was a long pause. Static. The sound of men dying. Then a voice he'd never heard before came through his earpiece. Female. Young. Calm as ice water. "Ground Team Alpha 1, have your position. I'm inbound. Tell your boys to keep their heads down. This is about to get interesting." Before Hawthorne could respond, the jungle erupted. Not with more incoming fire, but with a sound he'd heard countless times in combat. The distinctive crack of a precision rifle. Sharp, clean, purposeful. But this wasn't random fire. This was surgical. One shot, one kill. The enemy machine gunner, who'd been tearing apart their position, crumpled silently, his body folding like someone had cut his strings. Another shot. The spotter next to him dropped his radio, tumbling from dead hands. A third shot. The enemy commander coordinating the assault fell backward, a neat hole where his forehead used to be. "What the hell just happened?" Kincaid whispered. Hawthorne stared into the dense jungle, trying to locate the shooter. Whoever she was operating at a level he'd rarely seen. Each shot was finding a target his team couldn't even see through the vegetation, eliminating threats with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. The voice came through again. "Ground Team Alpha 1, count 25 hostiles in your engagement area. Give me 2 minutes, and whatever you do, don't shoot the person coming from your 6. That's me." 25 hostiles. She was planning to drop 25 enemy fighters, alone. Hawthorne had been a SEAL for 18 years. He'd seen the impossible become routine. But this was something else entirely. "Copy," he managed. Then to his team, "Hold fire on our 6 o'clock. We have friendly sniper support." Let her work. And work she did. 13 years earlier, a different kind of battlefield. The National Junior Shooting Championship. Sacramento, California. Summer heat baking the outdoor range. 200 competitors from across the country. Most of them boys. Most of them sons of military men or competitive shooters. All of them confident. All of them about to lose to a 15-year-old girl. Kira Ashford lay behind her rifle, breathing steady, heart rate controlled. The target was 600 meters downrange, a distance most adult competitors struggled with. She could feel the wind on her face. Slight breeze from the west, maybe 3 miles per hour. She adjusted her scope. .2 mils left, .1 up. Breathe in, breathe out. Halfway between breaths, the world went still. The trigger press was glass smooth. The rifle recoiled. Through her scope, she watched the bullet impact dead center. Perfect. The range officer's voice over the loudspeaker. Target down, perfect score. Ladies and gentlemen, your new national champion, Kira Ashford. She stood accepting the applause with quiet grace, not celebrating, not showboating, just acknowledging a job done right. That's when she saw him, an older man, maybe early 50s, standing at the edge of the crowd, gray hair cut military short, posture that screamed veteran, weathered face with eyes that had seen things most people couldn't imagine. He watched her with the kind of focus that made her think of hunting predators sizing up potential prey, or potential students. After the ceremony, he approached, extended his hand. Colonel Thaddeus Blackwood, retired. That was exceptional shooting, Miss Ashford. Thank you, sir. She shook his hand, noted the strength in his grip, the calluses that came from decades of holding rifles. You have natural talent, he said. Raw ability most shooters spend their whole lives chasing. But talent alone doesn't make you great. It makes you good, maybe very good, but not legendary. And what makes someone legendary, sir? The right teacher, years of dedication, and the willingness to push past every limit you think you have. He pulled out a card, simple, just a name and a phone number. I can make you legendary, Miss Ashford, if you're interested in being more than just another championship winner, if you want to be the best shooter of your generation. Kira looked at the card, looked at the man who'd handed it to her, saw something in his eyes, not arrogance, not manipulation, just certainty, the kind of certainty that came from knowing exactly what you were capable of achieving. Who are you really? She asked. Someone who set the sniper kill record in Desert Storm. 1,200 meters, saved an entire battalion with one shot. Someone who spent 30 years in uniform learning how to make the impossible routine. Someone who's looking for one last student to pass it all on to. Why me? Because in 15 years of watching these competitions, you are the first person I've seen who has the gift, the ability to make time slow down, to feel the wind without instruments, to know where the bullet will go before you pull the trigger. That can't be taught, but everything else I can teach you, everything else. Kira tucked the card into her pocket. I'll call you Colonel Blackwood. He smiled, not warm, not cold, just satisfied. I know you will, Miss Ashford. I know you will. That phone call changed everything. For the next 13 years, Blackwood trained her, not in military schools, not in official programs, private instruction, one-on-one, the kind of mentorship that happens outside bureaucracy and regulations. He taught her how to read terrain, how to calculate windage by watching vegetation, how to estimate range without instruments by using memory and pattern recognition, how to control her breathing so precisely that her heart rate dropped to 40 beats per minute while shooting, how to make a ghillie suit from local materials, how to move through hostile territory without leaving traces. But more than that, he taught her patience. Everyone thinks sniping is about shooting, he told her once during a training session in the Montana wilderness. She was 19 then, already better than most professional military snipers. But shooting is the easiest part. Any decent marksman can hit a target at 1,000 meters with the right equipment. What separates good from legendary is everything that happens before you pull that trigger. He made her wait, hours, days, lying in the same position without moving, learning to ignore discomfort, learning to become part of the landscape, learning that the shooter who wins isn't the one with the fastest reflexes, but the one with the most discipline. By the time she was 22, she was competing at the international level, winning, dominating, setting records that still stand. But Blackwood wasn't satisfied with the competition's success. Competition shooting is practice, he said, but there's a difference between hitting paper targets and operating in real-world conditions where the targets shoot back. That's when the real training began. He introduced her to people who officially didn't exist, contractors who operated in denied territories, intelligence officers who needed assets capable of independent operations, people who understood that sometimes the best solution to a complex problem was a single well-placed bullet from someone who knew how to disappear before anyone even knew they'd been there. At 25, Kira took her first real contract, intelligence gathering in a hostile region, observation and reporting. But the mission went wrong as they often do. Enemy fighters discovered her position. She had two choices: be captured or fight her way out. She fought. 3 kills, all necessary, all clean, all from positions of disadvantage that she turned into advantages through superior skill and tactical thinking. That's when intelligence agencies started taking her seriously. Not as a competitor, not as a trainee, but as an operator. The nickname came later. Phantom, given by someone who'd watched her work, who'd seen her appear from nowhere, eliminate targets and vanish again without trace. A ghost who left only bodies behind. Blackwood was proud, in his quiet, understated way. He never said much, but she could see it in how he looked at her during training sessions, how he introduced her to other veterans, how he talked about her potential. "You're better than I ever was," he told her once. She was 26 then, already operating at a level that few in the special operations community could match. "You have my fundamentals, my doctrine, but you've taken it further, refined it, made it your own. That's what legacy is supposed to look like." She'd never forgotten those words, because 2 years later, everything changed. Kandahar Province, Afghanistan, 2022. The operation was supposed to be simple. High-value target, confirmed intelligence, quick strike, extract, standard operating procedure for someone of Kira's capabilities. The target was in a compound, 2nd floor. Intelligence said he'd be alone with maybe 2 guards. Easy shot, clean shot, righteous shot against someone who'd killed Americans. Kira set up her position 800 meters away. Perfect sight lines, cover and concealment, escape routes planned. Everything by the book. Blackwood's book. The book they'd written together through 13 years of training. She watched through her scope as the target appeared in the window. Male, military age, wearing what intelligence said he'd be wearing, doing what intelligence said he'd be doing. She calculated the shot. Wind, distance, temperature, humidity, glass deflection, every variable accounted for, every factor considered. She took the shot. Perfect execution. The target dropped. Mission complete. Except it wasn't complete, because as she watched through her scope, maintaining overwatch as protocol demanded, she saw movement in the room. Someone else. Someone intelligence hadn't mentioned. Someone who'd been hidden behind the target. A child. A boy. Maybe 14 years old. Thin. Scared. And now covered in the blood of the man who'd been standing in front of him. The man who'd been shielding him. The man who'd been his father. Kira's world stopped. The scope showed her everything. The boy's face, his shock, his realization. His transformation from someone with a father to someone without one, in the space of a single bullet. Later, when the intelligence was reviewed, the truth came out. Wrong target, bad intelligence, miscommunication. The high-value target had left the compound hours earlier. The man in the window had been a shopkeeper. Local, no military value, no threat. Just someone who'd been in the wrong place when American intelligence decided certainty mattered less than results. And Kira had killed him, following orders, trusting the system, doing what she'd been trained to do. The bullet had passed through the father and struck the boy. Non-fatal, but permanent. Shrapnel damage. Scarring. Both physical and otherwise. The mission was classified, buried, explained away as operational necessity. But Kira couldn't bury it, couldn't explain it away. Couldn't accept that following orders absolved her of responsibility for a 14-year-old boy who'd watch his father cheat and bear the scars of it for the rest of his life. She wanted to quit, wanted to stop, wanted to find some other way to live that didn't involve rifles and targets and split-second decisions with permanent consequences. Blackwood found her 3 days after the incident. She was sitting in a contractor barracks staring at nothing. "I can't do this anymore," she said. He sat down across from her, didn't speak immediately, just sat, present, steady, the way he'd been for 13 years. "Running doesn't fix it," he finally said. "Walking away doesn't bring him back. Quitting doesn't undo what happened. Then what does nothing? Nothing undoes it. You carry it forever. That's the cow. He leaned forward. But you have a choice about what you do with that cost. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it refine you, make you better, more careful, more certain. So that the next time you have a shot, you don't take it unless you're absolutely sure. So that the next life on the line you save instead of take. How do I do that? By becoming someone else, someone who doesn't follow orders blindly, someone who trusts their own judgment first, someone who operates independently, off the books, where the only accountability is to yourself and the people you choose to protect. A ghost, a phantom. That's when he told her about the network, the people who operated in the shadows, the contractors who took missions the official channels couldn't handle, the operators who worked without oversight, without bureaucracy, without the chain of command that had led to Kandahar. I can make you disappear, he said. Officially dead, killed in action. Full honors. Your family gets closure. The system gets a tidy ending. And you get a chance to spend the rest of your life making it right. One mission at a time. One life saved at a time. Paying the debt. Will it ever be enough? Will I ever pay it off? I don't know, but trying is better than drowning in guilt. She'd accepted his offer. Kira Ashford officially died in a training accident. Closed casket. Full military honors. Her parents mourned a daughter who was still alive but could never contact them again. And the Phantom was born. For 2 years she operated, taking contracts that saved lives instead of taking them. Hostage rescue support, counterterrorism operations, protective overwatch for humanitarian workers in hostile territories. Every mission chosen carefully, every target verified personally, every shot taken only when she was absolutely certain. Blackwood monitored from a distance, providing intelligence when she needed it, offering advice when she asked, but never controlling her, never directing her, just supporting her as she built a new identity from the ashes of the old one. Until today, present day, 2020. The briefing room was underground, concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, maps covering every surface. A dozen officers and contractors gathered around a table covered with satellite imagery and tactical overlays. Kira sat quietly in the back, listening, observing, making mental notes about what they said and what they didn't say. The operations officer was mid-30s, never been in combat. She could tell by how he talked. The kind of confidence that comes from PowerPoint presentations instead of gunfights. Your role is strictly reconnaissance and observation, he said, pointing at a map of dense jungle terrain. You'll be inserted 12 kilometers from the target compound. Set up an observation post. Monitor enemy activity. Report back. That's it. No direct action unless absolutely necessary for self-defense. Standard risk-averse bureaucrat language. Cover your ass protocol. Kira nodded politely, made appropriate notes, looked every bit the compliant contractor who would follow orders to the letter. Inside, she was already planning for the moment when those orders would become irrelevant, because she'd been doing this work long enough to know that reconnaissance missions in hostile territory rarely stayed reconnaissance missions. Reality had a way of making plans obsolete. The briefing continued. Target compound. Estimated 20 hostiles. Light resistance. Navy SEAL team would conduct the direct action. She'd provide intelligence support. Stay hidden. Stay safe. Stay out of the way. She'd heard variations of this briefing 100 times. They were always wrong about the enemy numbers. Always. After the briefing ended, she returned to her quarters. Small room, single bed, locker with her gear already packed. She'd learned to travel light. Everything she needed fit in a single rucksack designed to look like civilian hiking equipment. Custom rifle broken down into components. Innocuous-looking pieces that assembled into a precision instrument capable of hitting targets at ranges most people considered impossible. Ammunition, match-grade rounds, each one hand-selected for consistency, checked for defects, weight sorted, prepared with the same attention to detail a surgeon gives to their instruments. Ghillie suit components that could be assembled from local vegetation, water purification tablets, emergency medical kit, satellite phone with military-grade encryption, a sidearm she hoped she'd never need but carried anyway. She studied the maps one more time, memorizing terrain features, identifying potential observation positions, planning primary and alternate routes. The insertion point was in dense triple canopy jungle, the kind of terrain where visibility dropped to meters and navigation became an exercise in dead reckoning and instinct. Her encrypted phone buzzed. Message from a number only one person used. Blackwood. Weather window closing. Insertion timeline moved up. You ready? She typed back always. His response, Intel feels thin. Numbers don't add up. Trust yourself first. I'll monitor from TOC. Satellite feeds, comms intercepts. If it goes wrong, I'll have your back. She appreciated that. Blackwood was retired now. 66 years old. Still sharp. Still connected. Still capable of providing support from a distance. But he knew better than to try to control her operations. He provided resources. She made decisions. That's how their relationship had evolved over the years. From teacher and student to something more like peers. Different roles, different capabilities, but mutual respect, mutual trust. Another message. Remember Desert Storm Doctrine. Command decapitation first. Heavy weapons second. Infantry last. But only if you decide to engage. Your call. Always your call. She smiled slightly. Blackwood always worried she'd follow orders too much. Fall back into old patterns. He needn't worry. Kandahar had cured her of that particular problem. The helicopter insertion was scheduled for 0200 hours. Low and fast, using terrain to mask their approach. No lights, relying on the pilot's night vision and skill to avoid detection. Kira had done this dozens of times, but it never got routine. Every insertion carried risk. Enemy fire, mechanical failure, navigation errors, any of which could turn a careful plan into a catastrophic failure. But this one went smoothly. The helicopter flared just long enough for her to jump into waist-high grass. Then it disappeared into the night, the sound of its rotors fading quickly into the ambient jungle noise. She was alone, 12 kilometers from the target, in a country that would deny she existed if she got caught. No support, no backup, no official sanction. Perfect. She moved through the jungle with practiced silence, using terrain and vegetation to mask her movement, stopping frequently to listen, to sense. To ensure she wasn't walking into an ambush or a patrol pattern, the jungle at night was alive with sound, insects, animals, the rustle of wind through leaves. Learning to distinguish natural sounds from human-made ones was a skill that took years to develop, and seconds to lose if you got complacent. She wasn't complacent. 6 hours to cover 12 kilometers. Slow, careful, voiding trails, voiding areas where humans might be, staying in the densest vegetation where her presence would be harder to detect. By dawn, she'd reached her planned observation post, a ridgeline overlooking the valley where the target compound sat. Perfect sight lines, natural cover, multiple escape routes. She assembled her rifle with the kind of focus other people reserve for prayer. Barrel, scope, stock, each piece fitting together exactly as designed, an extension of herself, a tool she understood better than most people understand their own bodies. Then she constructed her hide, using local vegetation, blending into the terrain so completely that someone could walk within meters and never know she was there. The art of invisibility. Blackwood had taught her well. She settled in to watch. Through her scope, the compound came into sharp focus. Buildings, vehicles, movement, and immediately she knew the intelligence was wrong. She counted hostiles through thermal imaging. 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 40 plus fighters, not 20. And these weren't militia irregulars. They moved with discipline, professional spacing, guard rotations that showed training, weapons that looked new and well-maintained. This wasn't the light resistance the briefing had promised. This was a military force. She pulled out her encrypted satellite phone, composed a brief message, speaking in code that conveyed essential information without revealing details if the transmission was intercepted. Overwatch to command. Enemy strength significantly higher than estimated. Count 40 plus hostiles. Professional grade. Recommend delay pending reassessment. The response took 10 minutes. Command to Overwatch. Intel team reviewing. SEAL mission proceeds as scheduled. Continue observation. Kira stared at the message, felt the familiar tightening in her chest. The same feeling she'd had in Kandahar when the intelligence didn't match what her eyes were telling her. She typed another message. Not to command. To Blackwood. Numbers way off, 40+ hostiles, SEALs walking into a trap. Command won't delay. His response was immediate. I see the same thing via satellite. I'm pushing back through channels. But you know how this works. Bureaucracy moves slow. Reality moves fast. If it goes wrong, trust yourself. Your judgment, your skills. I'll support however I can. But this is your call. She put the phone away, settled deeper into her hide, and waited. Because that's what snipers do. They wait. They watch. They prepare. And when the moment comes, they act with absolute certainty. That moment was coming. She could feel it. The same way she could feel wind direction or sense movement through vegetation. Experience, instinct. The kind of knowledge that doesn't come from briefings or intelligence reports. The kind that comes from years of operations where survival depended on reading situations better than the enemy. The SEALs were good, the best in the world. But they were trusting intelligence that was catastrophically wrong. And when they realized it, 12 of America's finest warriors would be fighting for their lives against odds no amount of skill could overcome, unless someone helped them, unless someone was watching, unless someone was willing to break protocol and do what needed to be done. Kira checked her rifle one more time. Confirm range to the compound. 800 meters. Perfect. Within her capabilities, within her certainty. She didn't want to violate orders, didn't want to compromise her position, didn't want to start a firefight that might expose her to counterattack. But she wanted even less to watch 12 men die because someone behind a desk valued procedures over lives. The sun set, darkness fell, and through her thermal scope, she watched the SEALs begin their approach. Textbook infiltration. Professional, quiet, confident. She whispered into her radio, not to them, to herself, a prayer or a promise. Hard to tell which. Not this time, not on my watch. The assault began with precision, breaching charges, flashbangs, the controlled chaos of close quarters combat, everything going exactly as planned for about 90 seconds. Then the trap sprung, hidden positions erupted, machine guns, ARPs, coordinated fire from multiple directions. The compound hadn't been the target, it had been the bait, and the real enemy force had been waiting in concealment around it. The SEALs fought their way out, moving with desperate speed toward cover, a small depression ringed by fallen logs, defensible but exposed. Kira watched through her scope as enemy fighters poured from the jungle, dozens of them, moving to surround and destroy the American team. She heard their radio traffic, calling for support, being told help was 40 minutes away. 40 minutes they didn't have. She made her decision in about 3 seconds. Everything Blackwood had taught her, everything she'd learned, everything she'd become, it all came down to this moment. She keyed her radio, speaking directly to the SEAL team frequency, her voice calm, almost casual, the way Blackwood had taught her, never let them hear fear, never let them hear doubt. Ground Team Alpha 1, have your position. I'm inbound. Tell your boys to keep their heads down. This is about to get interesting. Garrett Hawthorne's voice came back, strained, confused. Who is this? Identify yourself. Kira settled deeper into her firing position, controlled her breathing, let her heart rate slow, became perfectly still, perfectly focused. The way she'd done 10,000 times in training and hundreds of times in reality. Someone who doesn't miss. She acquired her first target, enemy machine gunner, 820 meters, slight crosswind from the east, humidity high, temperature dropping as night fell. She calculated everything in fractions of a second, muscle memory, trained instinct. Her finger found the trigger. Breathe in, breathe out, halfway between breaths. Press. The rifle recoiled against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched the machine gunner's head snap back, his body going limp, falling, one shot, one kill. She transitioned immediately to the next target, the assistant gunner, frozen for a critical second, trying to understand what had just happened. That second was his last. Her second shot dropped him before he could react. Kira allowed herself a single thought as she transitioned to target number 3. For the boy in Kandahar. For every life I can save. This is how I pay the debt. Then thinking stopped, and shooting began. Pure, precise, perfect. The debt payment had commenced. Target number 3 was a squad leader. 840 meters. She could see him through her scope gesturing with hand signals, coordinating the assault on the SEAL position from the right flank. Professional movements. Tactical spacing. This wasn't some insurgent who'd picked up a rifle last week. This was a trained military operator. Made no difference. Kira adjusted for windage. The breeze had shifted slightly, now coming from the southeast at maybe 7 miles per hour. She compensated. 2.1 mils left, 1.3 up. The mathematics of death performed in milliseconds. The trigger press was smooth, glass breaking, the recoil familiar as breathing. Through her scope, she watched the squad leader fall. His men immediately lost cohesion, started looking around, confused, scared, wondering where death was coming from. Good. Fear was a weapon too. Target 4, RPG gunner, lifting the launcher to his shoulder, preparing to fire directly into the SEAL position. If that rocket found its mark, it would be devastating. Confined space. Nowhere to run. She led the target slightly. He was moving. Not fast, but enough to matter at 800 meters. She calculated his speed, his direction, where he'd be when the bullet arrived. Shot. He dropped. The RPG fell from his hands, detonated on impact with the ground. The explosion took out 2 other fighters who'd been too close. Collateral damage. Unintended but not unwelcome. 3 for the price of 1. Target 5. Mortar spotter. Sitting behind cover with a radio pressed to his ear. Calling in coordinates. Trying to drop high explosive shells directly onto the Americans. She could see his lips moving. Could imagine the numbers he was speaking. Her bullet entered just below his left ear. Exited somewhere she didn't need to think about. The radio fell silent. The mortars never fired. 5 targets down in under 90 seconds. Down in the valley, the enemy was beginning to understand something had changed. Fighters were taking cover. Looking around, trying to locate the threat. Some were firing randomly into the jungle, wasting ammunition on shadows and fear. None of them were looking in the right direction. Kira's hide was perfect. Constructed with the same attention to detail Blackwood had drilled into her for 13 years. Blending with the terrain so completely that even if someone looked directly at her position, they'd see only jungle. Rock. Vegetation. Nothing human. Nothing dangerous. Until it was too late. She keyed her radio briefly, speaking to the SEALs who were starting to maneuver more aggressively, using the enemy's confusion to improve their position. Ground Team Alpha, your right flank is clear. Advance if you can. Hawthorne's voice came back, still strained, but with an edge of hope now. Copy Overwatch. Moving now. Who are you? Someone who doesn't miss. Focus on staying alive. She didn't wait for his response. Target 6 was already in her scope. Enemy sniper, trying to locate her position. Good instincts. Poor execution. He was scanning the wrong hillside, looking too close, assuming she was within normal combat range. Fatal mistake. Her shot found him before he even realized where to look. He slumped over his rifle. Another threat eliminated. Target 7, squad leader attempting to rally his troops, shouting orders, trying to restore some tactical coherence to the disintegrating assault. She could see his mouth moving, see the desperation in his gestures. He fell mid-sentence. Targets 8, 9, and 10 came in rapid succession. A 3-man team trying to set up a flanking position, using smoke grenades to mask their movement. Smart tactics. Would have worked against a conventional enemy. Kira watched them through thermal imaging. Smoke meant nothing when you could see body heat. She tracked them, waited until they thought they were safe, then systematically eliminated each one. 8, 9, 10. The SEAL team was laying down suppressive fire now. Coordinated, professional, pushing the advantage her intervention had created. They were good, the best in the world. But even the best needed help sometimes. By target 15, the enemy assault had completely stalled. Fighters were hunkering down, looking for escape routes rather than attack vectors. The trap they'd set had become their own kill zone. Kira continued working. Target 16, 17, 18. 18 was different. Through her scope, the face came into sharp focus. Female, late 30s maybe, tactical vest, professional bearing. A commander. She was using hand signals, directing a squad of 10 fighters, trying to organize one last push against the SEAL position. Kira's finger froze on the trigger. The woman was pointing, gesturing, sending her soldiers toward Americans who would die if she succeeded. But she was a woman, and suddenly Kira wasn't in the jungle anymore. She was in Kandahar, looking through a scope at a window, seeing a target that intelligence promised was righteous, seeing a man with a child behind him, not knowing, not seeing clearly enough, not being certain, taking the shot anyway. Her hands trembled. For the first time in 2 years. For the first time since she'd become the Phantom. Her hands shook. The woman commander gestured again. 10 fighters began moving toward the SEAL position. Low, fast, using terrain effectively. If they reached their objective, Americans would die. Kira's radio crackled. Hawthorne's voice. Urgent. Overwatch. They're pushing our left flank. We're about to be overrun. Still she hesitated, the scope showing her everything, the woman's face, her determination, her competence. Someone's daughter, sister, maybe mother. A human being making tactical decisions in a war that wasn't simple, that never was. But those 10 fighters she just sent forward, they were going to kill Hawthorne. Kincaid, 10 other Americans who trusted intelligence that was wrong, who were fighting for their lives because someone made mistakes. The same way that boy in Kandahar had been hurt because of mistakes, because of bad intelligence, because someone followed orders without question. Except this time, Kira wasn't following orders. This time she was making her own decision, based on what her eyes showed her, what her training told her, what her certainty confirmed. That woman was coordinating an attack that would end American lives. Gender didn't change that. Humanity didn't change that. The tactical reality was simple, even if the moral reality was complex. Kira exhaled slowly, steadied her hands through sheer force of will. Let her training override her trauma. Let her certainty override her doubt. I'm sorry, she whispered. To the woman, to the boy in Kandahar, to herself. Then she took the shot. The woman dropped. Her soldiers lost their coordination immediately. The push faltered, stopped. The fighters scattered into defensive positions. Kira's hands were shaking harder now, tears streaming down her face, silent, hot, mixing with sweat and camouflage paint. But her shooting didn't stop. Target 19, 20, 21, each one necessary, each one justified, each one adding weight to a burden she'd carry forever. By target 25, the enemy was in full retreat, abandoning their wounded, fleeing into the jungle. The ambush had failed. The trap had closed on them instead of the Americans. 8 minutes and 17 seconds from her first shot to her last. 25 confirmed kills. The silence that followed was profound. Jungle sounds returned. Insects, birds, the rustle of vegetation. As if nature itself was reclaiming space that violence had temporarily occupied. Kira remained in position, scanning for threats, ensuring the enemy wasn't regrouping, but her thermal scope showed only fleeing fighters, disorganized, broken. She keyed her training one final time. Ground Team Alpha hostiles are retreating. Your area is secure. I'm coming to you. Don't shoot me. Hawthorne's response came through, exhaustion and relief evident even through radio compression. Copy that, Overwatch. We see you on thermals. Come ahead. And ma'am, I don't know who you are, but you just saved 12 lives today. Kira broke down her hide, carefully policing her brass. Leaving evidence was unprofessional. Blackwood had taught her that, leave nothing behind but bodies and questions. She moved through the jungle toward the SEAL position, making noise to announce her presence, keeping her rifle pointed at the ground in a non-threatening manner. The last thing she needed was to survive the battle, only to get shot by friendly fire. She emerged from the vegetation into the SEAL position. 12 of America's most elite warriors stared at her like she'd just materialized from another dimension, which from their perspective, she essentially had. Chief Petty Officer Garrett Hawthorne was a big man, 6'2" of solid muscle, bearded, tactical gear bloodstained. He looked like a modern Viking who'd just survived Ragnarok. His eyes studied her with professional interest, taking in her compact frame, the custom rifle, the ghillie suit components still attached to her gear. "You're the shooter." His tone suggested he was still processing what had just happened. "I'm the shooter." Kira's voice was steady despite the emotional storm inside her. "How many did you drop?" 25 confirmed, maybe more behind cover I couldn't verify. Finn Kincaid, younger than Hawthorne by maybe 6 years, shook his head slowly, his designated marksman badge visible on his vest. "Ma'am, I've been shooting my whole adult life. I'm trained for this. And what you just did that was, I don't even know what to call it." "Training and good timing," Kira said, deflecting, the way she always did. "You were about to have a really bad day." "We were about to have our last day," Hawthorne corrected. He extended his hand. "Chief Petty Officer Garrett Hawthorne. And you are Kira Ashford, military intelligence contractor." They shook hands. His grip was strong, grateful, the kind of handshake that comes from someone who knows exactly how close they came to dying. One of the other SEALs approached. Davis, younger, eager. "Contractor, ma'am, what kind of contractor operates alone in hostile territory and shoots like a Tier 1 sniper? The kind that gets hired for situations like this." Kincaid studied her rifle, his marksman's eye taking in the custom work, the modifications, the attention to detail. "That's a custom build, M40 platform with modern upgrades. That's old school technique. Cold War era. Where'd you train?" Before Kira could deflect again, Hawthorne spoke, his voice thoughtful, almost reverent. "I know where she trained, or more specifically, I know who trained her." He looked directly at Kira. "You shoot exactly like Colonel Thaddeus Blackwood, Desert Storm legend. I served under him in '91. That man taught me everything about shooting. And you, ma'am, you just executed his doctrine perfectly. Command decapitation, heavy weapons, then infantry. That's Blackwood's playbook." Kira kept her expression neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about, Chief. Right now we should focus on getting you extracted. This area is going to get hot when the enemy regroups." Hawthorne studied her for a long moment, then nodded. He knew she was deflecting, but he also knew some questions were better left unasked in the field. He keyed his radio. "Viper 6 ground team Alpha, hostile eye contact broken. We're secure for extract. We also have an additional friendly, one contractor who just saved our asses. We'll need one more seat on the bird." The response came back quickly. "Ground team Alpha, understand additional passenger. Extract birds inbound. ETA 12 minutes. Move to primary landing zone." "Roger, moving now." Hawthorne looked at his team. "You heard command. Let's move. Johnson Ramirez carry the wounded. Everyone else tactical spacing. Watch our flanks." He gestured to Kira. "Miss Ashford, you're with me. I want you where I can see you. Not because I don't trust you, but because I don't want to accidentally leave behind the person who just saved our lives." The SEAL team moved through the jungle with professional efficiency. Despite exhaustion and wounds, they maintained security. 2 men were being carried, both conscious but unable to walk. The rest scanned constantly for threats. Kira moved with them, her rifle ready, eyes scanning. The fight was over, but they weren't safe yet. Plenty of operations had gone wrong in the final moments. When exhaustion and relief made people careless, the landing zone was a small clearing, barely large enough for helicopters. The SEALs spread out in a defensive perimeter, watching the jungle for any sign of pursuit. Kira took a position that gave her overlapping fire with the team's automatic weapons. If the enemy attacked during extraction, she wanted maximum effectiveness. They waited. 5 minutes, tense, alert, then contact. "Movement left," Davis shouted. Kira's rifle was up and tracking before she'd consciously processed the warning. Through her scope, she saw 3 enemy fighters emerging from the jungle, survivors from the earlier battle, making one last attempt at revenge or glory, or whatever motivates men to keep fighting after they have already lost. Her first shot dropped the lead fighter before he could raise his weapon. The second fighter managed to get off a burst of automatic fire. Wild, inaccurate. None of it came close to hitting anything before Kira's second shot ended him. The third fighter dove for cover. Smart instinct, poor execution. Kira had already calculated where he'd land. Her third shot found him as he scrambled behind a fallen log. "Clear," she called out, voice calm, unchanged, like reporting the weather. The SEAL stared at her. Again. "Jesus Christ," Davis muttered. "Does she ever miss?" "Not that I've seen," Hawthorne replied, his tone thoughtful. "And I'm starting to think we need to rethink our definition of contractor." The helicopters arrived moments later, two Blackhawks, coming in fast and low, their door gunners scanning for threats. The turbulence from their rotors flattening the grass, turning the clearing into a maelstrom of wind and noise. The extract was textbook. SEALs loading quickly but carefully, ensuring the wounded were secure, doing accountability to make sure no one was left behind, double-checking, triple-checking, because that's what professionals do. Kira was last on board, taking a seat near the door where she could provide covering fire if needed. The helicopter lifted off immediately, banking away from the jungle, accelerating towards safety. As they gained altitude, Kira finally allowed herself to relax. Not completely. She never relaxed completely in a combat zone, but enough to acknowledge that the immediate danger had passed. Hawthorne sat across from her, studying her over the headset, his expression mixing gratitude with professional curiosity. "Miss Ashford," his voice came through clearly, despite the helicopter noise. "When we get back, there are going to be a lot of people who want to talk to you. Debrief, after-action reports, probably medals and commendations. I'd prefer to avoid all of that if possible." Kira looked out at the jungle disappearing below. "I work better when people don't know who I am or what I do." "I get that, but you just saved 12 SEALs. That's not something that goes unnoticed." "Then let's compromise. I'll do the debrief for operational purposes, but keep my name out of official reports. Call me local asset or intelligence contractor or whatever vague term works. I'm more effective when I'm not famous." Hawthorne considered this. "I can probably make that happen, but my team knows who you are. They're going to tell this story, maybe not with your name attached, but they're going to tell it. Because what you did today, that's the kind of thing that becomes legend. The mysterious sniper who appeared from nowhere and single-handedly turned a massacre into a rescue. As long as the legend doesn't include my actual identity, I can live with that." Kincaid leaned forward, his marksman's curiosity overcoming protocol. "Ma'am, that shot on the RPG gunner. I barely saw the target through my optics. You dropped him at 800 meters while he was moving. How do you even calculate that?" "Practice, thousands of hours, learning to read wind by watching vegetation, understanding bullet trajectory so deeply it becomes instinct, being willing to take a shot most people wouldn't even attempt." "That's Blackwood's teaching," Hawthorne said quietly. "He used to say the same thing. The shot you won't take is the shot you miss. Confidence through preparation." Kira met his eyes, saw understanding there, recognition. He knew. Maybe couldn't prove it, but knew. "Whoever taught you," Hawthorne continued, "they were one of the best. And they made you better than they ever were. That's rare. Most teachers want students who validate their methods, not students who surpass them." The helicopter banked, descending toward a facility that officially didn't exist. Hidden deep in jungle territory that maps called disputed, but everyone knew was a covert operations base. As they touched down, Kira saw someone waiting on the tarmac. Civilian clothes, consultant badge, gray hair cut military short. Her stomach tightened. Blackwood. What was he doing here? The SEALs disembarked first, medical teams rushing to treat the wounded, officers gathering for preliminary reports. The controlled chaos of a mission gone wrong that had somehow ended right. Kira stepped off the helicopter last, walking toward Blackwood with questions in her eyes. "Sir, what are you doing here?" "Protecting my investment." Blackwood's voice was quiet, steady, the way it always was. "Had to make sure they treated you right." Hawthorne approached, stopped when he saw Blackwood, his eyes widening with recognition. "Colonel Blackwood." Hawthorne's voice held disbelief mixed with respect. Sir, is that really you? Chief Hawthorne, been a long time. Desert Storm, you were just a kid then. You saved my life in '91, sir. Taught me how to shoot, how to think, how to survive. Hawthorne looked between Blackwood and Kiera, understanding dawning. You trained her. That's why she shoots exactly like you. 13 years ago, Blackwood confirmed. Best student I ever had. Better than I ever was. Sir, what she did today, first saving us, it's beyond anything I've seen. 25 confirmed kills in 8 minutes, in jungle conditions, against professional targets. That's what 13 years of training looks like when you start with natural talent and add discipline. Blackwood looked at Kira, quiet pride in his eyes. But this is her moment, Chief, not mine. I'm just the man who had the privilege of teaching her. Before anyone could respond, another officer approached. Colonel Randall Prescott, facility commander, early 50s, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Miss Ashford, Colonel Blackwood, if you'll both follow me, we need to complete the debrief. They walked through underground corridors, concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, the architecture of secrecy. Finally arriving at a briefing room where Prescott reviewed a tablet filled with preliminary reports. Miss Ashford, he began, I've been reading Chief Hawthorne's account. 25 confirmed enemy kills from a single shooter at 800-plus meter ranges in jungle conditions. It's hard to believe. It's accurate, sir, Kira replied. Prescott studied her, then Blackwood, then back to her. I need to understand your background. Your file lists you as intelligence contractor with analysis specialization. But what I'm seeing suggests capabilities more consistent with Tier 1 special operations. Kira walked him through her training. Competition shooting from age 8, private instruction, specialized contractors, years of operational experience. She kept it vague, professional, revealing enough to satisfy curiosity without compromising operational security. Blackwood interjected only once. I taught her fundamentals, Colonel. Everything else, that's her genius, her dedication, her willingness to push past every limit. Prescott made notes, clearly thinking about implications, about capabilities, about how someone like Kiera fit into official structures that weren't designed for people who operated outside them. Then the alarm started, red emergency lights strobing through corridors, klaxons blaring, the sound of a facility shifting instantly from routine to crisis. Prescott's radio erupted with urgent traffic. Sir, we have a situation. Enemy assault force approaching from multiple vectors. Estimated force strength between 50 and 60 hostiles. They're heavily armed and moving with tactical coordination. Distance to perimeter, 800 meters and closing. The color drained from Prescott's face. This facility is supposed to be secret. How did they find us? Sir, they knew exactly where we are. This isn't random. This is targeted. Hawthorne appeared in the doorway, already checking his weapon. How many defenders do we have? 15 personnel total, Chief, only 5 combat ready. The rest are support staff, intel analysts, communication specialists, medical personnel. Hawthorne looked at his team, battered, exhausted, wounded. My boys are maybe 60% effective, sir. Against 50-plus hostiles, we're outgunned. Kira was already standing, moving to the tactical display, studying terrain, enemy approach vectors, facility layout. Her mind shifting from debrief mode to combat operations. The transition instant, automatic. Colonel, she said, I need detailed topography of the area surrounding this facility. Elevation data, vegetation density, natural choke points. Prescott hesitated. Miss Ashford, you're a civilian contractor. Who has capabilities you need right now? Kira's voice was firm, professional. Colonel, that enemy force will be in assault range in 10 minutes. We don't have time for protocol discussions. What do you need? I need them stopped. Then show me the terrain and let me work. Prescott pulled up satellite imagery, topographic overlays, real-time feeds. Kira studied everything with intense focus, calculating firing positions, sight lines, engagement ranges. I need to get outside the perimeter, she said. Elevated position with clear sight lines to enemy approach vectors. Same tactics as before. I'll engage at long range, disrupt their assault coordination, eliminate high-value targets, buy time for your QRF to arrive. A staff officer protested, "That's suicide. You'll be completely exposed behind enemy lines with no support and no extraction plan." "I'll be 900 meters from their assault positions," Kira corrected. "Concealed in jungle terrain, engaging from a position they can't easily locate or effectively return fire on. It's not suicide, it's asymmetric warfare." Hawthorne spoke up. "Colonel, I've seen what she can do. If she says she can hold off that assault force, I believe her. My team will hold the facility perimeter. We'll create a defensive kill zone. She picks off their leadership and heavy weapons. We handle anyone who makes it through." Blackwood had been silent, watching, listening. Now he stepped forward. "Colonel Prescott, you and I served together. Desert Storm. You remember that tank?" Prescott nodded slowly, understanding passing between them. "You're still here because I pulled you from that burning vehicle," Blackwood continued. "I'm calling in that favor now. Let her work. I'll coordinate from TOC, provide satellite intelligence, weather data, real-time updates. But she makes the tactical decisions. That's how we operate." Prescott looked at the tactical display, at the red icons representing enemy forces converging on the facility, at Kiera standing ready, at Blackwood's steady confidence. Finally, he nodded. "Do it. But Miss Ashford, if the situation becomes untenable, you extract immediately. We can't afford to lose someone with your capabilities over a facility that can be rebuilt." "Understood, sir." Kira grabbed extra ammunition, checked her gear, headed for the exit. As she moved past Hawthorne, he caught her arm. "Hey, Key," he said quietly. "You don't owe us this. You already saved us once today. Nobody would blame you for sitting this one out." Kira looked at him, saw genuine concern, genuine appreciation. "This isn't about owing anybody anything, Chief. There are people in this facility who can't defend themselves. Support staff who never signed up for a firefight. They need someone to keep them safe. That's reason enough." She slipped out through a camouflage side entrance, moving quickly through jungle that was becoming familiar. Behind her, she could hear the SEALs organizing the defense, their voices calm despite desperate circumstances. These men had already survived one impossible battle today. Now they were preparing for another. Kira reached her position in less than 5 minutes. A rocky outcrop on a hillside about 900 meters from the facility, elevated 20 meters above the valley floor. The position offered excellent sight lines while providing natural cover. She constructed a hasty hide, settled into a stable firing position, began scanning through her scope. The enemy force was larger than initial reports suggested. Through thermal optics, she counted at least 55 fighters, organized into squad-size elements, moving with tactical discipline that suggested professional military training. She keyed her braids. "Command, this is Overwatch. In position, count 55 plus hostiles organized in 6 assault squads plus command element. They're 300 meters from your perimeter and closing. Beginning engagement." Prescott's voice came back. "Roger, Overwatch. You are cleared hot. Watch your fire. Some of our people are in forward positions." In the TOC, Blackwood was pulling up satellite feeds, weather data, communications intercepts, building a complete tactical picture. He keyed into Kiera's frequency. "Overwatch, I have satellite coverage. Winds are calm, humidity high, temperature dropping. I'm tracking their command element at grid 347892. Recommend starting there." "Copy," Kira replied, starting with command. She identified her first priority target, the overall assault commander, distinguished by his position behind the main force, the cluster of radio operators and officers around him. He was gesturing, giving orders, coordinating the multi-directional assault. Taking him out would disrupt their command and control immediately. She calculated the shot. 920 meters, slight crosswind from the east, high humidity, temperature dropping as evening approached. She adjusted for all variables. Breathe in, breathe out, halfway between breaths. Press. The commander dropped instantly, his officers scattering in confusion. Kira didn't give them time to reorganize. Her second shot took down the nearest officer trying to assume command. Her third eliminated a radio operator probably calling for instructions. The enemy assault faltered immediately, and Kira kept shooting, because that's what she did, what she'd been trained to do, what she'd become. The debt payment continued. And somewhere in that facility, there was a 12-year-old girl who didn't know it yet, but the Phantom was keeping her safe, just like she'd failed to keep a 14-year-old boy safe in Kandahar. This time would be different. This time she wouldn't fail. Her finger found the trigger again. Target 4. Target 4 was a heavy machine gunner. She could see him through her scope setting up a tripod-mounted weapon, the kind that could shred the facility's defensive positions in seconds. His assistant gunner was feeding ammunition belts. Professional, coordinated, deadly. Not for long. Kira's first shot dropped the gunner as he settled behind the weapon. Her second found the assistant before he could take over. The machine gun sat silent, useless without operators. Target 6 was a squad leader directing his men into assault positions, using hand signals, professional spacing. He was good at his job, had probably done this dozens of times. Survived battles that killed lesser men. His luck ran out at 918 meters. By target 10, the enemy assault had stalled. Squad leaders were looking back toward their command element, seeking guidance that was no longer there. In that moment of confusion, their advance stopped. Fighters took cover, started shooting randomly into the jungle, trying to suppress a threat they couldn't locate. In the facility TOC, Blackwood monitored multiple screens, satellite thermal imaging, communications intercepts, real-time tactical overlays. He keyed into Kira's frequency. Overwatch satellite shows new element approaching from east. Estimate 20 fighters attempting to flank your facility. Grid 321754. Copy, Kira replied, her voice calm, focused, shifting fire to new threat. She swung her rifle to cover the new vector. Through her scope, she acquired the flanking force. Fresh squad, moving fast, using the main assault's chaos as cover. If they reached the facility's eastern approach, they'd have clear shots at the defenders. Target 11 was their squad leader. Target 12 was his second in command. Both dropped within 3 seconds of each other. The flanking element lost cohesion immediately. Without leadership, tactical movements became individual decisions. And individual decisions in combat usually led to fatal mistakes. Targets 13, 14, and 15 were fighters carrying heavy weapons. A machine gun, an RPG, what looked like demolition charges. All three went down before they could employ their weapons effectively. The flanking element broke, scattered into the jungle. No longer a threat, just survivors running for their lives. Kira shifted back to the main assault force. They were attempting to withdraw now, dragging wounded, providing covering fire, trying to salvage what remained of their tactical cohesion. She let most of them go. They were broken, no longer combat effective. But she continued targeting anyone who appeared to be organizing a rear guard or preparing for another attack. Target 16 was a fighter setting up to provide covering fire. Target 17 was another squad leader attempting to organize a defensive line. Target 18 was a radio operator, probably calling for reinforcements or artillery support. In the TOC, Hawthorne stood beside Blackwood, watching the tactical display with professional awe. Watching Kira systematically dismantle an assault force that should have overrun the facility. "Colonel," Hawthorne said quietly, "you've been running her operations, haven't you?" "For how long?" Blackwood didn't look away from the screens. 2 years, since Kandahar. Kandahar, the incident with the civilian casualties. One civilian casualty, a 14-year-old boy, bad intelligence. She followed orders, took the shot. The target was using the kid as a shield. She didn't know, couldn't see clearly enough through the window. Hawthorne was silent for a moment, understanding dawning. That's why she went ghost, why she's operating off the books. She wanted to quit entirely. I convinced her there was another way. Fake her death. Become someone who operates independently, who trusts her own judgment first, who only takes shots she's absolutely certain about. Blackwood finally looked at Hawthorne. "I don't run her operations, Chief. I provide intelligence. Weather data, satellite feeds. She makes every tactical decision. Every shot is her call, her responsibility, her redemption." That's why she hesitated earlier, when she had that female commander in her sights. She told you about that. Didn't have to. I saw it in her eyes afterward, in how her hands shook. Hawthorne looked back at the tactical display, at the red icons representing enemies, at Kira's position marked in blue. She's paying a debt, isn't she, every life she saves? For a boy who died because she followed orders without question. Yes. On the hillside, Kira continued her methodical elimination. Target 19, 20, 21. Each shot necessary. Each shot justified by the tactical reality of protecting Americans who couldn't protect themselves. But each shot adding weight to a burden that never seemed to get lighter. Blackwood's voice came through her earpiece. Overwatch QRF is inbound. ETA 7 minutes. You're doing exceptional work. Copy. She didn't elaborate. Didn't need praise. Just needed to finish the job. Target 22 was attempting to rally the remaining fighters. Shouting, gesturing, trying to restore some semblance of unit cohesion. Her bullet silenced him permanently. Target 23 was an RPG gunner. Taking aim at the facility, she shot him as he prepared to fire. The rocket detonated in place. Took out 2 more fighters in the blast radius. Target 24 was a fighter with grenades, trying to get close enough to throw them at defensive positions. Target 25 was another squad leader. Target 26 was a sniper, finally locating her general area, setting up for a counter shot. But general area wasn't specific enough. Not at 900 meters, not against someone who'd made herself nearly invisible. She shot him before he could fire. Then came Target 27. Blackwood's voice, urgent, different tone than before. Kira, I need to tell you something. There's classified information about the facility, information I just accessed. She kept scanning for targets. What information? There's a child in that building, protective custody, ambassador's daughter, 12 years old. If this facility falls. Kira's world stopped. Her scope froze on a target. Her breathing hitched. Her hands steady through 26 kills began to tremble. 12 years old, a child. Kandahar rushed back. The window, the man, the boy behind him. The shot she'd taken on bad intelligence. The screaming afterward. The blood. The knowledge that following orders had destroyed an innocent life. Kira, Blackwood's voice, concerned now. You still with me? She forced herself to breathe, forced her hands steady through sheer will, forced the memories down where they belonged. In the past, where they couldn't change what needed to happen right now. I'm here, she said, her voice not quite steady, but functional. How close are the hostiles to the facility? 400 meters to eastern approach, 350 to main entrance. They're pushing hard. Then they don't get any closer. Kira's shooting changed, not in accuracy, not in precision, but in intensity. In the cold fury of someone who'd failed to protect a child once and would die before letting it happen again. Target 27 was leading the final push toward the facility. She dropped him. Target 28 was right behind him. Fell before he'd taken 3 steps. Target 29 tried to take cover. Her bullet found him anyway. The enemy's will broke completely. She could see it in how they moved. The fighters who'd been advancing with tactical discipline were now retreating in panic, abandoning positions, abandoning wounded, running for their lives from an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't locate, couldn't fight. Kira let them go, her scope tracking their retreat but her finger off the trigger. They were no longer threats, just broken soldiers who'd learned the hard way that some targets are defended by forces beyond normal tactical considerations. Her radio crackled. Prescott's voice, shaking slightly. Overwatch enemy forces are withdrawing. Repeat, hostiles are breaking contact and retreating. Assess approximately 30 enemy KIA. Unknown number wounded. Copy command. I count 28 confirmed kills from my position. Hostiles are in full retreat. I'm maintaining Overwatch until QRF arrives. Roger, Overwatch. QRF inbound 3 minutes. And Miss Ashford, I don't know how to thank you. You just saved this entire facility. Kira didn't respond, just scanned the jungle, making sure the retreat was genuine, making sure no one was regrouping for a final assault. But her thermal scope showed only fleeing fighters. Disorganized, broken, gone. She finally allowed herself to feel it. The exhaustion, the emotional weight, the trembling that came after adrenaline faded. Her hands shook badly now, tears mixing with sweat and camouflage paint. 53 kills in one day, 25 in the first battle, 28 in the second. 53 lives taken to save 37 Americans. The mathematics of violence, the algebra of survival, the equation that never quite balanced no matter how many times you solved it. She heard helicopters approaching, the QRF arriving with heavily armed soldiers ready for a major engagement. They'd find a secure facility, scattered enemy bodies, and one exhausted contractor sitting on a hillside staring at nothing. Kira remained in position until she saw the QRF establish a perimeter, until she confirmed the facility was secure, until she was absolutely certain the child inside those walls was safe. Only then did she break down her position, police her brass, erase evidence of her presence. Only then did she allow herself to stand, to move, to return to the world of people and questions and consequences. Colonel Prescott walked out to her position personally, accompanied by Hawthorne and several other officers. His expression mixed awe with something close to disbelief. "Miss Ashford," he said as he approached, "I've reviewed the preliminary casualty assessment. 28 confirmed enemy kills from a single shooter in 15 minutes of engagement against a coordinated assault force that should have overrun this facility." 28, sir, Kira confirmed, her voice hoarse from breathing through her nose during hours of shooting. I don't have adequate words. What you've done today. First saving Chief Hawthorne's team, now saving this entire facility. It's beyond anything I've seen in 23 years of service. Just doing what needed to be done, sir. Hawthorne stepped forward. No, ma'am, this is not just doing what needed to be done. I've worked with the best shooters in the SEAL teams, with special operations snipers who've spent their entire careers perfecting this craft. And none of them could have done what you did today. Not once and certainly not twice. Kincaid was examining the terrain, the sight lines, the distances involved. Ma'am, I've been tracking your shots based on the body locations. You were engaging targets at ranges from 800 to over 1,000 meters, in jungle terrain, with limited visibility, while they were moving and taking cover. The level of precision required, it's honestly hard to believe, even though I'm looking at the evidence. The conditions were favorable, Kira said, deflecting automatically, the way she always did. Good elevation, thermal optics, enemies who weren't aware of my position until too late. Davis laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine disbelief. Ma'am, with respect, what you're calling favorable conditions would be considered extremely challenging shots by any standard. You're making world record level marksmanship sound routine. Blackwood had arrived with the group, staying in the background, letting this be Kira's moment. But Prescott gestured him forward. Colonel Blackwood, you trained her. Can you explain how someone develops these capabilities? Blackwood looked at Kira, pride evident in his eyes, but when he spoke, he kept the focus where it belonged. I taught her fundamentals, Colonel, breathing control, wind reading, range estimation, the basic mechanics of precision shooting. But what she did today, that's not fundamentals. That's genius. That's 13 years of dedication and thousands of hours of practice. That's natural talent refined to a level I never achieved myself. I gave her the foundation. She built the legend. Prescott made notes on his tablet. Miss Ashford, what you did today will be classified at the highest levels. No medals, no public recognition, no official acknowledgement. But I want you to know that your actions prevented catastrophic loss of American lives and a serious intelligence compromise. That matters, even if we can't publicly acknowledge it. I appreciate that, sir, but I didn't do this for recognition. I did it because people needed help, and I had the capability to provide it. That attitude, Prescott said, is exactly why you're so valuable. Most operators at your skill level want glory, want their names in the history books. You just want to do the job. That's rare. Hawthorne pulled something from his pocket, a SEAL Challenge coin, custom made, probably by his unit. He held it out to Kira. Ma'am, this is from my team. We talked about it and we want you to have it. As a thank you, and as a reminder that you've got 12 brothers who would drop everything to help you. Anytime, anywhere. Kira took the coin, felt the weight of it, understood what it represented. Challenge coins were sacred in military culture, tokens of respect and belonging that couldn't be bought or faked. Receiving one from a SEAL team was an honor few civilians ever experienced. Thank you, Chief. This means more than you know. It should, because you earned it. Hawthorne looked at his assembled team. What you did today, both battles, that's the kind of thing that creates legends. They're going to tell stories about you in the Spec Ops community for years. The silent guardian who appears from nowhere and saves entire teams. As long as they don't use my actual name, I can live with that. The team gathered, all 12 SEALs who'd survived the ambush. Battered, bandaged, but alive. They formed up around Kira in an informal group. Hawthorne spoke for all of them. Ma'am, we've been SEALs for a combined total of about 80 years. We've worked with every special operations unit in the American military and several foreign ones. We've seen the best operators in the world do impossible things. And what you did today ranks among the most impressive combat performances any of us have ever witnessed. You saved our lives. Then you saved this entire facility. We don't have words adequate to thank you for that. But we want you to know you're one of us now. You might not wear the trident, but you've earned the respect that goes with it. Hoo-yah, the team said in unison, the traditional SEAL expression of affirmation. Kira felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Not quite pride, more like belonging. She'd always operated alone, had always preferred it that way. But standing here surrounded by warriors who understood what she'd done and what it cost, she felt part of something larger than herself. Hoo-yah, she replied quietly. The SEALs grinned. She was one of them now. Later, after the debriefs, after the medical checks, after the administrative processing that followed every combat engagement, Kira found herself alone in a small courtyard, away from the facility's bustle, just standing in the evening air, trying to process what had happened. 53 kills, 37 Americans saved, one 12-year-old girl who'd never know how close she'd come to being caught in a massacre, one 14-year-old boy in Kandahar who'd never be whole again. The equation still didn't balance, probably never would. But maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was trying, continuing, not giving up even when the debt seemed impossible to repay. Blackwood found her there, approached quietly, stood beside her without speaking for a long moment. You did good work today, Kira. Did I 53 people are dead because of me? 53 enemy combatants are dead because they chose violence. 37 Americans are alive because you chose to protect them. Those aren't the same thing. Feels the same sometimes. I know. Blackwood was quiet for a moment. The woman commander, the one you hesitated on, Hawthorne told me. I froze first time in 2 years. You didn't freeze. You thought. You considered. You made a conscious choice instead of an automatic response. That's not weakness. That's growth. Kira turned to look at him, saw the man who'd trained her for 13 years, who'd saved her from drowning in guilt after Kandahar, who'd given her a path forward when she'd seen no future at all. What happens now, she asked. What do you mean, you're 66? How much longer can you keep doing this monitoring operations? Providing support, running interference with command. Blackwood smiled slightly. My hands shake a little now. My eyes aren't what they were. I can't shoot like I used to. Hell, I can't shoot like you do now. But I can still read satellite imagery, still understand tactics, still make phone calls to people who owe me favors. I can keep doing this part for a while yet. And when you can't, then you'll do it without me, the way you already do most of it. I'm just support now, Kira. You're the operator. You're the legend. I'm just the old man who had the privilege of teaching you. You're more than that. Maybe, but this isn't about me anymore. This is about you, about what you've built, about the lives you save. He paused. There's something else, about that child in the facility. The 12-year-old. Yes, when I told you about her, you changed. The shooting became more intense, more personal. I couldn't let what happened in Kandahar happen again. And it didn't. She's safe because of you. That boy in Kandahar, you couldn't save him. But this girl, you did save her. That has to count for something. Does it balance the equation? See, no, but it adds to your side of the ledger. Keep adding, keep saving. Maybe someday the weight shifts. They stood in silence for a while, teacher and student, mentor and protege. Two people bound by shared experience and mutual respect. Finally, Blackwood spoke again. What are you going to do now? Same as before. Someone needs help, I answer. You have proven everything. Set records. Saved dozens of lives. You could walk away, find some other way to live. Could I? You really think I could just stop, pretend the debt's paid when I know it's not? No, I suppose not. You're too much like me. Too dedicated. Too stubborn to quit until the job's done. And the job's never done. No, it's not. 6 months later, Kira stood on a firing range at an undisclosed location, training a small group of military snipers on advanced techniques. Word of her capabilities had filtered through the special operations community, carefully sanitized, heavily classified, but still word. Now she occasionally received requests to provide specialized instruction to elite units. She usually declined, but sometimes when the request came from the right people for the right reasons, she accepted. Today's students were good, professional, dedicated. They'd benefit from her instruction, learn techniques that would make them more effective, maybe save their lives someday. But they didn't need her. Not really. They had trainers, support, resources. Her encrypted phone buzzed. She stepped away from the range to check it. Message from a number she recognized. Hawthorne. Silent Guardian, this is Ground Team Alpha. Situation developing that could use your particular skill set. Location classified. Duration unknown. Compensation significant. More importantly, Americans in trouble, interested. Kira read the message twice. Looked back at the range where her students were practicing. Good shooters. They'd be fine without her. But Americans in trouble, they might not be fine without her. She typed a single-word reply. Inbound. Because that's who she was, what she'd become. The silent guardian, the phantom, the contractor nobody knew about until the moment they desperately needed her. She packed her gear, the custom rifle, the carefully selected ammunition, the equipment that had served her through countless operations. She didn't know where she was going, didn't know what she'd face, didn't know if this would be another impossible situation that required everything she had. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. When she arrived, when she settled into position, when she looked through that scope and found her targets, someone's impossible day was about to get significantly better. Because the silent guardian was coming, and she never missed. Blackwood found her in the armory, checking equipment with the thoroughness that had become ritual. He didn't try to talk her out of going, didn't ask if she was sure. He knew better. Instead, he helped her check the rifle, the same way he'd done hundreds of times over 13 years. A ritual they'd developed, teacher and student, mentor and legacy. You remember what I taught you, he asked. Every word, every lesson, every principle. Then go show them what a Desert Storm vet's legacy looks like. Kira shouldered her pack, picked up her rifle case, looked at the man who'd saved her life by giving her purpose, who'd transformed guilt into mission, who'd made her better than he'd ever been. Thank you, sir, for everything. Don't thank me yet. Come back safe. Then we'll talk about gratitude. She walked toward the helicopter waiting on the tarmac. Didn't look back. Looking back was for people who had doubts. She had none. Somewhere in the world, Americans were in trouble, facing impossible odds, calling for support that might not arrive in time. But she was coming. The helicopter's rotors spun up. She boarded, took her seat, felt the familiar sensation of liftoff, of moving toward unknown danger with absolute confidence in her capabilities. In the TOC back at the facilities, Blackwood watched the helicopter disappear on radar, then pulled up satellite feeds for the region where Hawthorne had requested support, started building a tactical picture, weather patterns, terrain analysis, enemy force estimates. He'd provide intelligence. She'd make decisions. They'd save lives. That's what they did. That's what they'd always done. His phone buzzed. Message from Kira. Beginning approach. Will advise when in position. He typed back, copy. I have satellite coverage. Weather looks clear. You're good to go. Her response was brief, professional, the way it always was. Roger. Taking the shot. Blackwood leaned back in his chair. The satellite feed showed dense jungle canopy. Somewhere beneath it, Kira was settling into position, constructing her hide. assembling her rifle with the same methodical precision he'd taught her 13 years ago. But the legend she was building, that was all hers. He thought about the 14-year-old boy in Kandahar who'd paid for bad intelligence with permanent scars. About the 12-year-old girl in the facility who'd never know how close death had come because Kira stood watch. The debt might never be fully paid, but Kira would spend her life trying. One shot at a time, one life saved at a time. On the satellite feed, a heat signature moved into position. Blackwood recognized the stillness, the focus, the moment before everything changed. His phone vibrated, a single word from Kira set. Blackwood typed back, "Winds calm, target area clear, you're cleared hot." No response. She was already in the zone. The place where time slowed and certainty replaced doubt. Somewhere in that jungle, enemy fighters were advancing toward Americans in trouble. Confident, unaware. They'd learn the hard way. Because the silent guardian was watching, and she never missed.